Chicago, 2011. A cop is murdered. Police and prosecutors swear they have the trigger man. He swears he didn't do it. How far will each side go to prove they're right?
Like it's just one bombshell after another, where you're like, what?
The story of a PlayStation, a brain-eating amoeba, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Off Duty, out now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Psych Legal Pop podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about popular culture through the lens of an attorney and a therapist. I'm Brooke Brigham. I'm the attorney.
And I'm Tess Brigham. I'm the therapist.
Today, we are going to be talking about a documentary called My Mom Jayne. And this is about the life of Jayne Mansfield, who was a very prolific entertainer. And her daughter, one of her daughters, she had 5 children in total. One of her daughters is Mariska Hargitay, and of SVU
Yes.
Fame, SVU Special Victims Unit, and all of those. So she made this documentary to. It seemed like very personal, like she was looking for answers, and I think it was a process of finding out, because her mother died very young. She was only 34 and Mariska was only 3 years old. And so she didn't know her. She really doesn't have any memories of her. She only knows what she sees, written about her, or what she's heard, or, and she just, this was a journey for her to learn more about this woman. And, like I was saying in the beginning, you can really tell that this is painful for her, because she is just really, it's just painful. Like, she never got to know this woman, and she almost kind of, it seemed like, didn't really like her very much based upon what she had seen in the media.
Yes.
The way they portrayed Jayne. And as she dug deeper, she realized that she was not really that person at all. She was a very different person. Jayne went through a lot in her life.
Yeah. Well, what did you think about it? What did you think about it high level? You like it? It sounds like you did.
I did like it. I found it interesting, and it was also painful, though, because Mariska, wasn't the only one. She has 2 older brothers who are a few years older than her, who also lost a mother very young.
Yeah.
They were, I think, like 6 and 8 when Jayne died. And they got a chance. I forget which one of them said this. I think it was the oldest one, Mickey Jr., who said that, he doesn't remember his mom very well, but he remembers how she made him feel. And he remembers her essence, and that he felt love from her.
Yeah.
But Mariska kind of doesn't really feel much at all. And then there was a older sister who was born when Jayne was only 17. What is her name? Marie.
Her name's Jayne. Her name's Jayne Marie.
Jayne Marie. Jayne
Yeah.
Marie. So she was a teenage mom.
Yeah.
She,
married very young.
Very, very young. The first husband, that wasn't good. That didn't work out. But she had this real desire always to be famous, to act, to perform, to entertain. She was a very accomplished musician. She played the violin and the piano, and I think the viola. Is that how you pronounce it? But she always felt like she had to get her foot in the door because she was a woman, and women who worked in Hollywood at the time, and they were kind of just seen as sex symbols. And
you were kind of put in these boxes, right? She goes out to LA with Jayne, her daughter, and Paul. Paul hates it, the husband. So she stays, he leaves. Obviously they get divorced. And essentially it sounds like it sounds like she wasn't struggling for that long. And maybe this is one of her big regrets, because it really, the way the story was told, it really felt like she went into this agent's office. She did this Joan of Arc, this monologue from Joan of Arc. And the agent's like, yeah, you're not using your assets, which is basically like you have a banging body, you have big natural boobs, and you've got a tiny waist and big hips. You look like you've got the body of like Marilyn Monroe. And if we dye your hair, you'll look just like her. And we manufacture that. And what I do wonder, I could be wrong, which is, maybe that was Jayne's downfall. She was very determined. This was her whole thing, was that, her whole thing was like, I had to act like this. I had to be this blonde bombshell ditz dummy in order to get parts, in order to be seen. But the problem was that it pigeonholed her. Like it was a double-edged sword. So I do wonder, like, what would have happened if she said, okay, I'll keep struggling? Because, right. Because there was like, Betty Davis is this kind of person, and this kind, everyone was in a category. Dark hair meant you were smart. Blonde hair meant you were dumb.
Yeah. And she really wanted to be taken as a serious actress.
Yeah.
And when it wasn't happening, I think maybe she thought, okay, well, this is just temporary. I'll do this stuff. I'll dye my hair blonde, because she was a natural brunette. And people will see my talent, and then they'll cast me for other things.
And I can see a very young person believing that too. I mean, I'm not blaming her one way or the other, but I think that was her idea and theory wasn't crazy. It just, unfortunately, she was doing it at a time where today you could do that, but not then.
Yeah. And what did they call her? They did acknowledge her somewhat, that she was smarter than, the average blonde. They had some term they used. Can't remember what it was, but she was seen as like the smartest, pinup girl, or whatever you want to call it. But her rise was pretty fast, though, because it sounds like she got some movies, and then she was in this play. She went to New York and got this play, like, Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter? And that put her on the map. And then she came back and she did the movie version, and then tons and tons of movies. I never quite understood why everything started drying up. Like, what happened? She had to pivot. But again, she really wasn't. Again, what's so fascinating about all of this is, like, she died in 1967. She hit it big in 1955. Like, this is like a 12-year period where she rises to fame and, has 4 more kids and marries, 2 more times. And a lot happens in those 12 years. Yeah.
13 years, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And she had she did always work. She was very prolific, and like, she even did Playboy, when that was not really considered a positive thing to do at all. And she just, I don't know, she just kept going.
Yeah.
Like she just never stopped working. But yeah, it was like a combination of, just working, taking anything she could get, and then managing all these relationships with all of these men.
Mm-hmm.
But her big love, I guess, if you want, I don't know, maybe not, but was Mickey Hargitay, who was a Hungarian bodybuilder.
Yes.
Who came over to this country, and he was, very attractive. They were a very attractive couple. They had 3 kids together, including Mariska. And, they both were doing well, making money, bought this big house on Sunset Boulevard. And
Mm-hmm. In 1956, she was the most photographed woman at that time. She definitely also had, she was like the first maybe reality star before reality happened. Like she was a Kardashian. She was a Hilton. I think that was the other thing they were kind of indicating, was that she was also kind of famous for being famous, famous for being out and about, famous for dating these men, famous for this and that, and doing all these photo shoots. She had that kind of larger in life. Can we go back to the Miss Universe, Mr. Universe thing? This is what's so crazy about it, is you look back on that and go, well, that seems very normal and natural for Mr. Universe. Versus what we see today, which is because they have all these steroids and all these, right?
Oh,
like back in those days, it was like, yeah, you just built up your body the best that you can. Whoever looked the best was good, versus kind of what they do today.
Well, I'm sure they had some enhancements, but yeah, nothing like what came later. But I don't know.
I just thought like, oh, this is a very normal, right? Like, okay, this feels more realistic. Got it. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, even if you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's funny, they did a TV movie of their life, and Arnold Schwarzenegger played.
I know.
Mickey Hargitay, and then Lonnie Anderson.
Yes,
was Jayne.
I remember that now, because that was kind of the first, that movie, which came out in the 80s. That was sort of the first time I ever really knew who Jayne Mansfield was, because the blonde bombshell was Marilyn Monroe. Like that's and so she was the icon, and so Jayne was like considered sort of a knockoff of her.
Which is weird, because I don't think Jayne is much prettier and smarter, and like, I don't know how she wasn't able to overtake Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
And also, Jayne Mansfield was linked with JFK and RFK.
Oh, she was? They didn't talk about this. Oh, interesting.
I found this on Wikipedia. Yeah, see, what's in this documentary is very specific to Mariska's journey. A lot was left out.
Yes.
I'm sure she didn't want to, she didn't even mention the Playboy thing. I found that out online. And there's a lot more. Her life was even bigger than this. Like in terms of, I can't believe all the stuff she did in 34 years.
Yeah. Yeah. The woman lived. She lived.
She did live.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that Mariska, what really bothered her, and I guess it, I think what made her struggle with understanding her mom and accepting her mom, was this image that she had and this put upon voice. And I think that it was the voice that bothered Mariska the most. That she would talk like this and, oh, I don't know, everything's great. So, and I think that was one of Mariska's who was my mom, because she was, this is such a weird thing where your mother passes away when you're very young, but she's very, very famous, but she's also very young too. And, Mariska talks about this, that she really never associated herself with her mom or any of that. And then when she started acting, people started writing her fan mail and then telling her about like, hey, I live next door to your mom and dad. I did this, I did that. Like people wanted to share with her. These are my memories of my mom. And she doesn't say this explicitly, but this was my interpretation, which is that it was almost kind of like she needed to hear she needed to hear, how do I say this? Like she needed to hear about her mom through other people that really, really knew her. And I think then it sounds like then it was like she was able to really start to or want to get to know her. Hearing these stories, away from the limelight or away from her father, because again, her father didn't always want to talk about, all of these things.
Yeah.
But it's just fascinating.
Because she needed to figure out that her mother was a real person.
Yes.
Apart from this image, that's all she knew was this image. And she goes into this storage unit that has been untouched since 1969.
And that's crazy. So that also makes you think that, and we see it with the interviews with her siblings, they're still struggling.
Big time.
Just because Zoltan is 4 years older or 3 years older, he's still struggling. And so is the Mickey Jr., even though they were a little bit older, everyone's struggling.
Yeah.
With the loss.
Well, Zoltan, because when they first started trying to interview him, he really couldn't speak. And he was having a hard time and he got very overwhelmed. And I thought he was just overwhelmed by emotions. But when I was reading more about this, the car accident that killed their mother, those three kids, all of Mickey's kids were in the car. And they did not die because they were like all asleep in the back seat lying down. Because what happened was the car they were in was traveling at night on this road behind a semi truck, and the semi truck suddenly slowed way down because there was a truck coming towards it, one of those mosquito spraying trucks. Anyway, their car literally went under the semi and sheared off the whole top of the car. And after that accident, they actually passed legislation requiring these they call them underride bars, and they sometimes call it a Mansfield bar. So it's a big bar that goes across the back of the truck so that can't happen. I mean, you can still hit the back of the truck, but literally this thing just went under it, took the whole top off of it, killed all the adults who were sitting up
in the front seat.
In the front seat, but didn't kill the children because they were asleep, lying down. So horrifying. I mean,
they had forgot. The other thing too is when the accident happened, right? The brother was talking about this. Zoltan was talking about this of like someone's in my face and, lights and all of this, and they're on their way to the hospital. And he says, where's Maria? And they're like, who's Maria? They didn't realize that Mariska was underneath the front seat, one of the front, underneath the passenger seat, because she was so small. She just rolled into there and was wedged underneath there.
Yeah. Oh, and I know what I was going to say about Zoltan is that as a result of that accident, he had really severe head trauma.
Oh, okay.
And had to have brain surgery. So I think I think he has some trouble communicating.
Yeah.
What my point was, but he was really but the other Mickey Jr., the oldest one, he was very emotional about it too. And it's like they can barely talk about it or speak about it.
Yeah, it's very, very painful.
Even crazier is that Jayne, when she was 3, lost her father in a car accident. I think she was in the car.
Yes.
He had a heart attack while driving and crashed the car and died. So, I mean, this is like generational trauma, you know, extreme generational trauma.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, God, that's so crazy. So we see also, but sorry, to go back, We see also that, I was like 1969 and not one person in this family. There's a lot of people in this family. She had 5 kids. Not one of you wanted to open this. And I think that's the other part of it too. It sounds like that maybe Mariska kind of got to a point where she was like, you know what? Nobody's going to open this door if I don't open it. Like if I don't start doing these things, like my brothers don't seem to want to, and they seem to be, maybe because they knew her a bit more, they seem to be much more settled. In these things, the oldest daughter spent the most time with her and got to know her the most. So maybe she has different feelings about it. But anyway, it's that feeling of like this, if I don't start talking about this, this will never come out. It's almost like you're back there with them. It's very, very painful. The whole thing is very painful. But we see her. So her parts, she marries Mickey in 1958. They have this very up and down marriage. Mickey to me always seemed very steady. So I don't know what the highs and lows were, but I think that it struggled a lot because I think her career started to, right? She wasn't the hype, the sensation that she was. I think that she wasn't getting the parts that she wanted. We see her do this one very serious monologue in a movie that was very good, but it doesn't sound like she was able to do more of that. And I also wonder if during this time, if she was so focused on her career and, was maybe out and about a lot. And maybe that was some of the stuff with Mickey, because it was interesting. Like her third husband was a film director. It seemed like she kind of started attaching herself to people that could possibly help her career much more than people that she loved. That's all. That's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah. Although, that's why I think Mickey really was like the great love of her life. But these other people, she was sort of looking to see like who could help her. But I mean, she was all over the place. She was doing the USO tours with Bob Hope, and she was going on all these late night talk shows or variety shows. Yeah. And like, I couldn't believe, I didn't even recognize Merv. Was it Merv Griffin?
Yeah, it was Merv Griffin. Yeah. I didn't recognize him at all.
Yeah. And she's trying to show them, I'm serious. Look, I know how to play the violin. And they're just like, we don't give a fuck.
Well, we see her playing an entire piece on the Ed Sullivan Show, which was amazing. And then we see her playing the violin again for Jack Parr. And she's like, well, just give me a minute. And she starts to play, and she's maybe 20 seconds in. And people, and you could feel like the audience was shifting. You could feel like people are like, oh, wait a second, she's good. And Jack Parr, and it was like, you egotistical piece of shit. The tension was off you for a second. You didn't like where this is going. So he makes this joke of saying, stop playing, kiss me. And basically derails her. And that's kind of how it was. And this is where this question comes in, which is, could she have done it another way? She came to LA when she was 21 years old. She's had a kid. Like, could she have ever made it in a different way? Was this exactly what I was saying? Was like, if she had held out a little bit longer, if she had, didn't dye her hair, didn't do these things that people wanted her to do, would it be different? But I also think that that's that other thing too, which is, well, I don't know. They had plastic surgery back then, right? Yeah, because Marilyn Monroe had a nice job.
It wasn't as common, or
because that's the other thing is that, right, these very hourglass shaped women, there was a time in which that had to be how you were born,
right?
Versus what you can do today.
Yeah, no, I don't think they were doing that kind of stuff. They weren't doing like liposuction. I mean, they were probably doing facelifts, but she had, I don't know. I think it was just a combination of people saw her and saw this. Oh, okay. Like you said, this is the box you can fit into. You just need to dye your hair.
Yeah.
And then her thinking, okay, well, this is just temporary and I'll just go along with it for now. But like there's this famous picture of her sitting next to
Sophia Loren.
Sophia Loren, yeah. And Sophia Loren is just looking at her like she's a piece of trash.
Yeah.
But like Sophia Loren, maybe she should have gone the Sophia Loren route with this, the natural dark hair. Because it's true, like back then, especially, it was like blondes were dumb and brunettes were like, the smart ones.
And the ones you marry.
Ones.
The blondes are who you have an affair with, and the brunettes are who you marry. They're the good girls and the bad girls and all of those things. Yeah, it was a very famous, that photo, which is everywhere, was also like she's looking at her chest. Sophia Loren is looking, and because she's wearing this very low cut dress and kind of, you can see everything. And Sophia is wearing a more, sort of moderate dress. And then there was a man in there too, but it's really the two women that you see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, I don't blame Jayne for what she did. I'm just saying I think that's one of the things about, and maybe on all industries, which is so much of it is who's in your corner. Like, who do you meet first? Do you meet the agent that has good intentions, or do you meet the agent that doesn't have good intentions? And I think that part is really hard, is some people, meet the right person at the right time that really champions them and helps them. And then other times you have these situations like with Jayne. And I think that, like, we saw her really struggling, but because when her career started to, she wasn't getting the gigs, people weren't taking her seriously. Apparently she started drinking, and she started drinking a lot, and she started taking pills, and she was kind of out of it a lot, and she was really struggling. And that was the thing, was that she, it really felt like she obviously loved these men. She loved her children, but I think she really defined herself by her career.
Yeah.
And I think that was very painful for her. And I think that's when she started, just the choices that she was making. It felt like she was going off the rails a little bit, trying to figure out how to get it rolling again.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So then, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so she and Mickey break up. And this is the part that's a little unclear of, did they ever officially divorce and then get back together? Because, and we'll explain all of this later, but like, basically we hear about their fighting, they get divorced, they split up. And then we see this interview with Jayne saying, well, we're back together now and we're going to have a baby, which is Mariska. And so it's a little unclear of like, were they officially separated or not? Did they ever officially get divorced then or not? What happened? But they had some time apart. And then they eventually, after I think Mariska was maybe a year or two, and that's when they finally called it quits. And then she went right into this other relationship with this guy, Matt Simber, who was Italian. And that's what the older boys were talking about. Like, now we're Italian and this guy's in our house. And apparently they fought all the time, and he was physically abusive to Jayne, but he was a director, and she thought he could do something for her career. And they have a child together, Tony, who we meet in the documentary. He seemed very familiar to me.
I don't think Tony ever lives with Jayne. I think
that's what you found out. They didn't talk about this in the movie, but
yeah, he went, let's see. I think he went and lived with his father. Yeah. Because this is when she was really heavy in the alcohol and pills.
Yeah. Well, and she was trapped. I mean, again, I think she also, what was probably frustrating for her was she was kind of trapped in this cycle, right? Which is, at this point, she had to do the nightclub circuit, which she had like an act, and she would not maybe like sing a song and be sexy and all this kind of stuff. Kind of like Countess Luann's cabaret.
The cabaret.
Yes. I'm sure it was something like that. So she had to do that. But that's like, being on the road and nightclubs, that will only make you drink more and pop more pills. So I think she was in this really tough spot. And I guess she and Matt divorced very quickly. Like that was a horrible relationship and that ended. But, but it sounds like Jayne didn't feel like she could miss a beat because she just kind of kept going. She kept rolling along.
Yeah. Well, going back to when Mariska was born, so like she had a few affairs, and like you said, they were going through a divorce. What I read was that they had gone to Mexico and they were trying to get a divorce. They were granted a divorce in Mexico, but it hadn't been recognized yet by California. So they just pulled it. And so, it never became official. And basically in October 1963, she announced her pregnancy and, saying, oh yeah, we're back together and having this baby. And then Mariska commented, well, Mickey, remember all those pictures where she had cut Mickey out of all the
Yes.
a little immature. There's all these family photos, and Jayne went through and cut Mickey's, face out of all.
A lot of people, anybody. She cut out more than Mickey. Anybody that did her any wrong, she was cutting you right out of that photo. Yeah.
So, like Mariska was saying that, there's really no photos of Jayne holding her. And so there was never any kind of a attachment. And then there was this weird thing about how they called her Maria Magdalena, but on her birth certificate, her name was Mariska. I don't know what was going on.
Well, I think that one of the arguments that she and Mickey had were about raising the kids. And I think this name thing was one of them because she wanted her to be Marie, which is her middle name, I believe, or mother's middle name. Because I think her mom's Vera Marie. Yeah. You mean Jayne's mom.
But Jayne Marie is the sister. So
yeah, I know. But is Jayne Marie? But I think they wanted to. Yeah. Anyway, Mariska obviously is a very, I guess, a Hungarian name, which I think is what Mickey wanted. And I think that Jayne wanted Marie. And that's another thing that's very bizarre too, is here you're a kid and your parents can't agree on what to call you.
Right. Some people are calling you Maria. Some people are calling you Mariska. That's
yeah. And that's bizarre too. I mean, and that's confusing. That's confusing for someone, right? Like whoever.
Because when they came on the Merv, was that when they went on the Merv Griffin show with all the kids and he's like, and what's your name? And she kind of had to think about it for a minute. And she's like, Maria.
Yeah. It was, So she never felt that close. And then she felt this, obviously she and her father were very, very close, but it sounds like she always, I get the senses that she kind of felt like, I don't belong. I don't fit in. I don't belong. And one thing was that after Jayne passed away, in the summers, essentially once Jayne passed away, what happened was that I think the oldest sister was an adult, kind of went off in her life. The three children with Mickey stayed in that house with Mickey and Mickey raised them. And then baby Tony went with dad, was always with dad.
Right.
And so the summer would come around and the two older boys would go with Mickey and the family to Hungary to visit relatives. And he would have her stay with her grandmother, and Mariska could never quite understand why. Why am I being singled out? Why can't I go? And I always thought that was odd too. Like, what were you? Because, because Mickey was a little all over the place with this stuff, right? I mean, I don't know. It was interesting because anyway, sorry.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I think, when you look at those kids, the two boys, their coloring was completely different because we find out later that Mariska's biological father is this Brazilian man.
Italian.
And no, he's Brazilian.
He's Brazilian? I thought he was Italian.
I don't think so. That's what I wrote.
Hold on. Psych Legal Pop will be back after these messages.
Chicago, 2011. A cop is murdered. Police and prosecutors swear they have the trigger man. He swears he didn't do it. How far will each side go to prove they're right?
Like it's just one bombshell after another, where you're like, what?
The story of a PlayStation, a brain-eating amoeba, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Off Duty, out now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's see. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's Italian.
he's from Brazil.
Okay. All right. I'm wrong.
Look how, he's very dark. He's Brazilian.
Okay.
Yeah. So Mariska had like the dark hair and the kind of like olive skin.
Mm-hmm.
And those boys, they were like blonde.
Yeah.
Blonde hair, fair skin. I don't know. Maybe he knew that like if he took her to see his family, they were going to be like, what is this? Like,
Yeah, maybe.
but he definitely loved her and she loved him.
Yes.
You know, and it was devastating to her to find out.
Yeah. So we basically,
and she said something. Oh, sorry. I heard her say, I can't remember if this was in the documentary or some interview that I saw her do, but she said when she went to finally go meet her biological father, or maybe she called him first or something. And he said, I've been waiting for this phone call for, however many years.
Yeah. 30 years.
So he knew. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, so her mom passes away. She believes Mickey's her father this whole time, but something feels off. Something never has felt right. And one of the things that Mickey said to her was, don't read any books. Don't read anything about your mom. That's all lies, for fear of, I think, for finding out about what the truth was. So when she was 25, I thought this was so weird. She went to a party of one of the Jayne Mansfield's club, like the club president.
Yeah, fan club or something.
Fan club is throwing a party, and he says, oh, do you want to see a picture of Nelson? And she's like, well, who's Nelson? And this guy was like, oh my God, realized that he just let this cat out of the bag. And she sees a picture of him and she kind of gets this sense of like, oh crap. And then she runs to her father. And I think, again, this is one of those things where, was it right? Was it wrong? I don't know. But she runs to her father and says, what's going on? Is this man Nelson my father? And he says, no, you are my daughter. He never really answers her. He basically said, you are my child. You don't need to worry about this. You are my child. And I think that I really do feel like Mickey was thinking that I do see her as my child, like very much so. She is my child. And that she does not need to know, like, I am her father. So this is not an issue. Not really quite grasping or understanding how Mariska felt inside. And I think that's the part that is, I think she's trying to reconcile with her father. Like, she spent a long time protecting him, wanting the world to know that he was her father and protecting him and protecting this image. And I think she felt like, oh, that's the best way to honor this man. But am I really honoring myself and how I really feel inside? Because Mickey doesn't know what this is like to not know who your parents are, not know who your father is.
Yeah. And this is a different time too.
Yeah.
A lot of this kind of stuff happened. And, and he, I can't remember what year he died, but also
I wrote it down. He died in 89. No, sorry. He died in 2006.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And so he remarried, and the stepmom seemed like a nice
I think they all got
person.
along. She seemed very nice.
She cared, you know.
And I think she was essentially their mother, basically. You know, I mean,
Oh yeah,
yeah, because she was
the
taking
little kids.
because they got married. So I guess they had been dating already before Jayne died. But Jayne died June of 1967, and then they got married in April of 68. And my guess is they moved that along so that she could come in and help him. And but yeah, she seemed but she seemed to have some feelings about it. Like she didn't agree with Mickey about how he was handling the situation. But she kind of felt like this isn't my story to tell. I can't do that. So then I guess she was 30 years old and she saw that Nelson was playing in Atlantic City. And that's when she went to see him. And that was when he's like, I've been waiting 30 years for this. And we hear what the real story was, which she and Mickey were off, you know, not together. They're in Europe. They meet. They're both touring. They're both doing their tours, performing and through Europe. And they, you know, see each other. And that was it. Like they met each other at a club. They have this whirlwind romance. They did a movie together. And she finds out that she's pregnant. And she's in this situation where she's like, I'm in love with these two men. You know, what do I do? You know, and I have been pregnant with it, you know, all of this kind of stuff. And so then Jayne says, and I'm sure she said this maybe casually or just kind of fishing a little bit, but she says to Nelson, she says, well, if I went off and got pregnant by another man, would you take me back? And that really pissed off Nelson, which is understandable. Because I think he kind of felt like, what are you trying to tell me that you're going back to Mickey? Like, hello, what's going on? So he had this very big reaction, which is get out of my sight. Like, go back, you go back to the US. I will never speak to you again. You know, and he obviously regrets that. And again, I certainly didn't think I think he thought he would speak to her again, not really knowing that 3 years later she would be dead.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things about when you make these big declarations with people, or when you say, I'm cutting you out of my life, like or if you think there's more time, there really isn't. I mean, it's a mistake that a lot of us make, because we think we have time, and sometimes we do, but sometimes we don't. So don't always assume.
Yeah. And it's just sad. It's so sad that these adults are making these impulsive decisions. And you just the whole time you're just feeling so sorry for Mariska. Like she's just all caught up in this, and she's the victim of all of this. And, you know, she's 60 years old, and it's taken her like all this time in her life to even be able to have the strength to look at it and try to unravel it. And so, I mean, it's quite something.
It is. And I think that what was so interesting is Mariska Hargitay, when she sort of started to come on the scene, I remember she was on ER very early on. She played a character that no one really liked. I felt bad for her. But and then she got on SVU, and that's really what she's been doing for the last 25 years. But what's interesting about her is if you look at her and the characters that she's played, it's the polar opposite of her mother.
Yeah.
Right? She's always had the dark hair, dark eyes. She plays these very strong, very smart, tough, serious women. And I don't think that's just random by any means. So
and she talks about how she felt like her mother, through all of these bad decisions, you know, just left her kind of alone and untethered. And, you know, her grandmother made some comment to her about how, like, I'm all you have, you know, probably one of those summers when, you know, she had to go to grandma's house and she couldn't even go be with the family. I mean, she was totally just kind of out there on her own.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I just want to say, like, again, I think that this would be so different if Jayne hadn't passed away so young and so suddenly. And I think that's the part that really, like, I think in some ways maybe that was the moment in which you needed to be honest with Jayne. I mean, you need to be honest with Mariska, or she was 3, but like as time goes on, maybe you need to shift this a little bit. But yeah, again, I think all these people felt really really unsure of what to do. And I give Nelson a lot of credit, because I think that Nelson really was like, I think he felt a lot of guilt for making that decision of telling her to leave. I think that he kind of felt like, I can't, if I show up, I'm going to ruin, I don't want to ruin this kid's life. And I really got that from him. I really like Nelson. When she reunites with, I think I cried 3 or 4 times during this documentary. But this ending part with him was really, it's very painful, because he's 89 years old and he's finally kind of like getting to make these amends, and the pain that it sounds like she's known about this man, obviously for 30 years. She's known she has 2 sisters, because Nelson has 2 children from his marriage. And they all had to hide and pretend like that they weren't related, because Mariska was so worried about the world finding out that Mickey wasn't her father.
Yeah.
So,
that's...
Yeah. So she talks a lot about this reclaiming her own story, very similar to Monica Lewinsky, who's over on her podcast, Reclaiming. But it is true. I mean, there is something about that. Like when you give something enough time and awareness to take 4 or 5 steps back and then really figure out, okay, what is, this is that person's truth. This is that person's truth. What's my truth? And I think that's pretty much what I got from this, is like, this is Mariska saying, this is my truth. This is the truth of my life. This is the truth of my mom. And this is my truth of who I am based on all of that.
Well, and we forgot to mention the press secretary.
Oh God, this guy.
Jayne's press secretary.
Oh yeah. Who's very all about love and with the rainbow.
He had a message to send. Rusty. He had his rainbow love hat and tumbler with him. So I guess he's a part of that community. He really wanted to make it clear.
Yes.
But I guess he wrote about this thing with Nelson in his book. Yes. I don't know how many people read his book or when that came out. But yeah, that was really shitty. Like you said, that wasn't his story to tell.
Yeah. And Mariska kind of confronts him and says, well, did you really feel like that was your right? And Rusty's kind of, he's 99 here and he's trying to defend himself and his, and I think he felt like, well, that was my shared, that was my relationship with her. That was my, so yes, I feel like I have the right. But I think until she said something to him, I don't think he'd ever thought about it.
Yeah.
I don't get the sense that he, for one iota, for one moment, thought, "Oh, wait a second, how will this affect you if I reveal this story?" But it also makes sense why Mickey was like, "Don't read any books. Don't investigate anything."
People were out there talking about it.
Yeah. And then how embarrassing for you as Mariska, like knowing this. I think that's the part that she's like, you all knew this, and you just all held on to it. And she said, I think this is her who said this, sometimes keeping a secret doesn't honor anyone. I'm not sure who said that, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. Like this big secret, like hurt a lot of people, and going all the way back to her mother. My God, I mean, obviously she created this situation. That's just really unfair. Yeah, I mean, Jayne's not completely innocent in all of this. Like after she divorces Matt, she takes up with her divorce attorney
guy. Yeah.
And he died in the crash as well because he was in the car, Sam Brody. But apparently he was abusive and awful and terrible to her.
Yeah.
And again, I was like, did you think he was going to help you with your career? Like, what did you think? But it seemed very clear that Jayne did not want to be alone. Like Jayne really went from man to man to man to man to man. She really did not spend many years by herself. The only time we ever hear her by herself is from when she was in LA focusing on her career to the time that she met Mickey. right? I'm sure she was dating people and seeing people, but like that was this only pocket of time. And that was like a year or two.
Yeah. I mean, she was married at 17
and essentially on and off married most of her life. So yeah, I mean, I think it's this question of this idea of secrets, right? Like to honor Mickey. How much did she, how did the ripple effect of that? What was the ripple effect of that? Because by her honoring Mickey and not wanting to say any of these things publicly, it made Nelson have to keep the secret. It made the sisters and everyone in this family have to keep a secret. All of these people were keeping the secret, all to protect this person who is he really the person that we should be protecting? Do you know what I mean? And that's the part that's hard is I think sometimes adults think that they're protecting kids when in actuality you're protecting yourself.
Yeah.
Because I think Mickey I think you can look at it a lot of different ways. I think Mickey very much felt like in a very black and white way, she's my daughter. She doesn't need to know anything else. That's just how it is. But, or were you also kind of protecting your ego?
Protecting yourself. Yeah.
Protecting yourself, protecting how people might see you or view you. Or maybe, she had an affair with a man and you raised her,
right.
Like whatever the judgments were that people would think.
Yeah. And like Grandma Vera, she wanted Nelson to claim Mariska. And that's when he said, no, this little girl just lost her mother and this is the only family she knows. We can't take that from her.
Yeah.
So that I think was a more pure contention than maybe what Mickey was doing. But, people, God, these messy things, they have always happened in families and people keeping secrets. And now, look at all the stuff that's coming out with these, DNA tests and all this kind of stuff. And it's just, it can really mess with people.
Yeah.
Really, really mess with people.
Because, I mean, listen, I obviously know who my parents are. I know who my parents are.
I think so.
Yeah. Please. These people are our parents. We look a lot like them and all of those other, and we have photo proof elements. But I don't know what that feeling is. And I think that's important too, is I think that, when exactly what Mariska's saying, her whole life kind of feeling a little off. And you hear this from people too, that eventually find out that they were adopted, like always feeling a little like this is a little off. This isn't right. And yeah, it's always fascinating to me how someone dies, especially if they die unexpectedly and early, how everyone feels like they have to protect that person, protect and kind of like shellac them in time of we can never say anything bad about them. And that's one of the things about the dead, right? Is we feel guilty criticizing them. We feel guilty, or we feel like, well, is that, they're gone now. Is that really my place to be mad at them or angry? And it's like, yeah, it is. When someone dies, their life isn't perfect and they walk away. I mean, people die at different times and it's always messy.
Yeah. Well, in a weird twist of Hollywood fate, Jayne and Mickey's house is purchased by Engelbert Humperdinck.
See, there are some people that we heard that name.
Oh yeah, and you have to be of a certain age to even, to even know who that is.
What was his big hit?
I don't even know.
I just know it's that name. Where was he from?
I don't know.
Okay. I just know he was like a singer performer and he had the weirdest name. And this was in the 70s?
Oh, and I think it was before then. Let's see.
60s, 70s?
Engelbert Humperdinck. Oh, he's a British singer, 19th century German composer. He was born in 1936. So it was the 60s.
Okay.
Cranking out the hits. But
okay.
Yeah. I mean, once you hear that name, you never forget it.
Yes. So he was a big deal.
Yeah.
But I guess when they passed away, he bought her mother's piano with the house. Or it came with the house?
The piano came with the house, apparently. This house, they had a heart-shaped swimming pool, and it said, "I love you, Janie." And there was this big white piano that had like these kind of cherub, Cupid-y type characters painted on it, and custom made and whatever. And she knew that Engelbert had this. Well, he ended up tearing down the house, but I guess he still had the piano, and they somehow got in touch with her.
Yeah.
And her husband was helping, but he got that piano back for her.
Yeah,
and the way they had to lift it into this, they live in this New York City apartment.
Yeah,
this crane is like lifting the piano up into the apartment. It was quite something.
Yeah,
but
yes. So she got the piano back, and so now she has this little piece of her mother that she didn't think.
Yeah. Well, and she found, when they were going through the storage unit, she found a Golden Globe. Jayne, she won a Golden Globe. She won some other like award too. I don't know what it was, Critics' Choice Award or something. But I guess Mariska also has a Golden Globe. So
yes, so
she took that with her.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that one of the other things when you're talking about the heart-shaped pool, that they had a bunch of animals, like it was like a zoo. And before Joe Exotic, Tiger King, there were these people. And they are so lucky because they had ocelots and they had all these animals and all these little kids running around. You're lucky that one of those tigers didn't go tiger.
Yeah.
And because they're tigers. I mean, things happen. So they're very lucky nothing happened with any of those kids.
Yeah. Well, there was a like one of those lion country safari type places in Southern California. It was called Jungle USA or something. Anyway, I think maybe this is how Zoltan got the head injury. She took the kids there, and Zoltan was attacked by a lion.
Oh my God.
And it bit him in the neck or something. Anyway, and then the creepy the lawyer that she was dating.
Oh, Brody. Sam Brody?
Yeah. He sued the amusement park, and got what in today's dollars would be equivalent to like $15 million. And the place went out of business.
Oh my God. And who got the money though? That should have been Zoltan's money.
I don't know. I don't know if it ever got put in trust for him or what the lawyer probably took most of it.
Yeah, he just really he absconded with it, because that was the other thing too, was that she was broke or something. It seemed like she was broke when she died, because
that's why they had to sell everything.
She didn't have that, because she didn't have a will. Obviously, she was 34. She didn't have a will, and they had to take everything to sell back all of her creditors. Mm-hmm. So, but it's like, well, where's that $15 million? I mean, yeah. I guess that lawyer must have went with his family. He really must have absconded with that money, because he obviously didn't share it with Jayne.
Yeah, well, I mean, she had quite a lot of expenses. I don't know how far that. Yeah, he probably took half of it, and then the other half she probably had to live off of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she was working nonstop. I mean, she had a big life, but I don't know. Maybe the gigs weren't paying as much as it seemed.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, she wasn't getting top dollar, I don't think.
Yeah. So
but anyway, but I got the sense, because the final kind of message that Mariska gives, she says she spent most of her life being ashamed of her mother, a person that she didn't remember, a person whose voice I didn't even want to hear, a person whose career she wanted to do differently. So hopefully she feels better. She's in a better place with it now.
One thing I've always wondered about with Mariska is why she's decided to stay on SVU so long. It is very rare for people to stay this long on a show. Mm-hmm. I am sure because what happens is it doesn't take long for when a show becomes a hit. People want to get off because they want to start making movies. They want their own TV shows. They want to do their own thing. And she's obviously the star of this show. But everybody else has left. Like everybody, Christopher Maloney has left and come back, and all these other people, they come and they go. But it's interesting. She's got this real kind of like Hollywood workhorse, like you don't leave a successful series kind of, because that's a saying. Like if your series is a hit, you're stupid for leaving it. Like you never leave anything that's successful. You ride that out until you can't anymore. But maybe she's, it's interesting because I just think it's interesting juxtaposition of her mom and her mom's career and how she got pigeonholed. Like, don't you feel a little pigeonholed now? Like this is, but again, maybe I also think that we see her she has 3 kids. Mm-hmm. One is adopted. And my guess would be that she probably wanted to have a life where she could live in New York and raise her kids.
Yeah, I think
this allowed her to do that. So
yeah, I'm sure she makes a ton of money. They crank those episodes out. It's just and then she can go home. She doesn't have to be traveling. She doesn't want to live in LA. Clearly, she wants to be there, and it just works for her. And
yeah, that's also interesting too. That she grew up in LA. That was her life, and that she just when she's been in New York this whole time. So.
Has she ever been in a movie?
I mean, I'm sure she has. But I don't know. I mean, it's a good life. It's if you can get on a series like that as an actor, and people just get bored. They get bored of doing it. It's very rote. People come along and throw things at you, and it's easy to get stars in your eyes. But maybe she just kind of felt like, I mean, she's the one that's been working. Her husband's an actor as well, Peter Herman, who we've seen on Sex. We saw him in Just Like That and Younger. So he doesn't work as steadily. He doesn't work like the way she does. So maybe she felt like she had to.
Yeah, she's been on since 1999, making her the longest running character in American primetime drama history. Jeez.
Yeah, 26 years. It's a long time.
Oh my God.
To be doing the same thing.
Yeah. She's done a few before she got this gig. She had a few small parts. On ER and
but that's very different than her own mother, right? I mean, Jayne was gonna. I mean, I think she had to, but Jayne was gonna work. She was gonna work no matter what, and she was gonna keep pushing and doing the things that she wanted. And it seems like Mariska's like, you know what? I just want to be a working actor, and that's good enough for me. So
yeah,
and I guess. Sorry.
She was Miss Beverly Hills, and she competed in the Miss California USA pageant and placed 4th.
Nice. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, she's had a few TV shows, but she's got a good gig there.
Yes. So
her husband who did her husband play? And Just Like That, was it?
Remember the guy that she runs into? Like he's
on the
bike path. He was also in Sex and the City. Actually, here's some deep cut. He had a very, very brief scene with Charlotte. He played one of the Jewish, like she went to that Jewish singles mixer, and he was the hot one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But did you ever watch the show Younger?
Yeah.
It's a good show. And so he's in that, he's very cute. But yeah.
Well, very interesting.
Yeah.
Documentary. Learned a lot.
Yes. Learned a lot about Jayne Mansfield. Learned a lot about Mariska Hargitay. Learned a lot about all these people. And it's really fascinating. And I think the other thing too is what I find so interesting is you see these old movies that are, coming out, and you're like, God, it's interesting. Like at some point, 50 years from now, when we're dead, people are going to be watching like The Breakfast Club. Do you know what I mean? And the movies that we grew up on, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and people are going to be like, "What? What movie is Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Who are these people? What actor is that?" Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's only so many Casablancas and Affair to Remember. Like there are these pivotal movies and movie stars that will transcend time, but in between all of that are just a bunch of other people. A bunch of other actors and things that seem so big in the moment, but like Because you watch all those movies, I'm like, I don't know where that actor is. I don't know who that person is. I don't know who that person is. I've never heard this movie.
Oh yeah, I don't watch hardly. I mean, I don't really watch old movies. Like anything in black and white, I'm like, no thanks. Like I've never seen Casablanca. I've never seen.
You haven't? Okay.
The Wizard of Oz is probably the closest I get to an old time movie. Like I don't know. It's hard to connect. It just seems so.
Not even. Have you seen Citizen Kane?
So long ago. No.
Well, I was a film major, so we studied.
Yes,
we had to study those films.
You had to watch all those films. Me, if I had a choice between Citizen Kane and The Breakfast Club, I'm going to watch The Breakfast Club.
Okay. But anyway, that's what always, when I watch these shows, I'm always like, what's life going to be like, a million years from now? People are going to be seeing, because maybe there'll be a documentary about J-Lo and about J-Lo's many loves, because there are some, I could see 30, 40 years from now, there was a woman, Jennifer Lopez. But she married and divorced a lot. And let me tell you the tale of her. Yeah, right?
She was in love with love.
She was in love with love. And but that would be a good story. Like there are some people that are here today that I don't think we will know 50, 60 years from now. But I think that someone like J-Lo is kind of a Jayne Mansfield in her own way.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if our planet is still here, or what.
Oh God,
what the status is.
Well, you're down. You're low. The world's falling apart. Yes,
okay,
it's true.
Everyone. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
If you want to support the podcast, we would appreciate it if you would subscribe and also leave us a 5-star review. That helps get the word out about our podcast. And if you want more of us, we have a Patreon. And we do a weekly bonus episode. We give you all of these episodes ad-free. And we have have some other bonus material for our higher tier. And also you can find us on YouTube. If you would please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Hi, everybody.
And we're on all the social media platforms, mostly, you know where to find us. Psych Legal Pop.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
That's it. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
That new thing? Yeah, we've got it. The Drop by GNC, bringing you all the newness that matters, handpicked by the pros who actually know what's up and what's proven to work. We keep you on top of the trends and dialed into what's next. Whether you're crushing it at the gym, leveling up your game, or thriving every day, The Drop by GNC is where the latest solutions in health and wellness land first. Non-stop innovation and fresh finds daily. Explore what's new and what's next on The Drop by GNC.
Does your day move faster than you can keep up? With new Gatorade Lower Sugar, my family and I can stay at the top of our game. No artificial flavors, sweeteners, or colors. 75% less sugar, and all the electrolytes of regular Gatorade. Now available nationwide.